guys, welcome to my channel. This is the weekly astrology and tarot forecast for Sunday, January 30th through Saturday, February 5th. Very interesting week. We have a week where we solve the riddle of how can we both be restricted in life and also find freedom at the same time. And we're going to find out this week because we're going to have both of those themes, both this feeling of being restricted, but also finding freedom, and how those two themes relate to each other when it comes to our life. So most likely this week is going to serve to like we're going to have some type of restriction or actual loss, or something happening where like life is cut down or we're feeling restricted in some way, but then have that very thing lead us to this doorway to freedom. So not necessarily the easiest week, but one that like where like the work is worth it. So before I get into it, if you don't know who I am, let me just introduce myself. My name is Valentine Lister. I'm a professional astrologer and tarot card reader and YouTuber. And on this channel, I do videos like this one. I do this weekly astrology and tarot forecast every single week, every Sunday. And I also teach about tarot. I'm in the process of teaching the tarot cards now, and astrology and any other spiritual practices that I think are cool, that are helpful, that I think you need to know about. If you want to know a little bit more about me, you're a little curious, you can go to valentinelister.com. But in any case, without further ado, I'm going to get into the transits for this week. Okay, so the first transit that we have is on Sunday, January 30th. We have the Sun squaring Uranus. So we've had this aspect before back in the summer when the Sun was in Leo, but it's going to take on a different feel because now we have the Sun, the light of our lives, the truth, the soul that drives us forward. Also talking about our actions in life and other things, which I'll go into. In Saturn sign now, in a well-dignified place. However, the Sun is in detriment. And one of those reasons is because when the Sun is in Aquarius, around here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter, it's cold, it's dark out. So not really the best area of, or a time of life where the sun can shine brightly and be all it can be. It's kind of dampered and hidden and restricted by just life forces in general, just the winter. Like we have to go inside. It's not like the summer. It's not like the summer when the sun is in Leo, which is the opposing sign to Aquarius, where we can go out, soak up the sun, be our best selves. This is where we really have to hunker down and really actually spend a lot more time alone, probably deal with our hidden issues or thoughts or things, and also really sit with ourselves and think about the future and like kind of what we can do in the future, because it's cold now, right? And also survival. So our thoughts with Aquarius being an air sign tend to be on our survival, what we can do to protect our lives, to defend ourselves, and to really be able to stand strong in who we are and not have other people mess with us. And Saturn does that like differently than Mars. Both Saturn and Mars are considered the malefic, the bad guys of the zodiac. Saturn does this by restricting and cutting off life. So you can think of Saturn ruling the Sun as kind of the grim reaper, or the god of agriculture, who cuts down life in order to nurture it. And that's a very like, you could think of that as Sun in Aquarius, or even the Sun in Capricorn. And so it's in a fight. Squares are the nature of Mars. And so there's a conflict there, or actually a productive energy, an energy where we have to work for it, making an aspect to Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is the liberating aspect. Uranus is the sky god. He doesn't want to have anything to do with the earth. He wants to be like doing his sky thing. He wants to make love to Mother Earth, Gaia in Greek mythology, but he didn't want to stick around to take care of her children. And so that's where the conflict began. And interestingly enough, though, Uranus is in Taurus. So some type of liberation in a very physical, grounded, and earthy way. So what is this actually going to look like for us? Well, one clue is that the moon is in the balsamic phase, in its detriment in Capricorn. So we're going to have to let go of something, and most likely this letting go is going to be liberating for us, but most likely difficult, and it's going to feel harsh and probably will feel unsupported, or like we have to like do things on our own and be tough because we're not getting the nurturing from the people in our environment that we would really like. Um, and we're probably going to have dark themes like literal deaths. The balsamic moon is the phase of the moon where the light is really getting like choked out of the moon, and so it usually relates to death anyway. But then the moon in Saturn sign, when we were talking about like the Saturn as like the grim reaper, and then having Saturn co-present with the sun, so literal death or literal losses in a very physical, like literal sense is most likely going to happen in some way. So it, may not be like a literal death of like someone we know, although, like that's definitely a possibility. I don't want to sugarcoat these transits sometimes because um, I want them to actually prepare you for what's coming up. But it could be death of leaders or bosses or spouses, um, like it can be a mentor, people who you looked up to. So it doesn't have to be someone that's actually in our sphere personally. It could be somebody who is like a masculine, like fatherly figure related to the sun, like people we look up to for guidance, like in a public way, somewhere in like our community or like our workplace or in the media, or could be those things. But definitely like a literal physical loss or a loss of resources. So it could like Capricorn. We have like the moon in Capricorn. So it could actually be like a physical loss of like money or like a home or like removing in some way, or a loss of money in some way. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be like very minor. Like we lost a small amount of money, or we have to like get out of our house because like there's work being done on it, something like that. But we also might, the restriction related to our resources might be related to ideas or laws, or not being able to say what we need to say in some way. So that can vary. So that could be an example of many things, and it doesn't have to be so big. I'm sure I'm scaring you guys, but like you can handle whatever energy is coming up. I assure you that you actually can handle it, and if you're prepared for it, that can give you some relief in the process. It doesn't take the difficulty away completely, but it could be like really really minor, or it could be like a story that you see. So for example, in like when Sun was square Uranus, like previously, like back in the summer, there was this really awesome story of these like Good Samaritan officers, like police officers who were off duty, who witnessed an accident where a toddler was like trapped under a car, and they were there just in the right time, and they were able to lift the car up and save life. Um, it was like there's this other thing that was very minor. I went for a walk with my kids after dinner, a dinner that they actually liked, which was awesome. But we walked around and we had this beautiful walk outside. It was like in the summer. And then we saw like three dead baby birds. And so that was pretty gruesome, but just a reminder of that cycle of death and life. So something happening around Sunday that reminds us of this cycle of death and life. And remember that after the death comes the rebirth. And it could also be, so there's a chance also that it might be a surprising circumstance because we have, or a surprising difficulty because we have Saturn combust under the sun. So that means, to me, usually when I see charts, it's like a hidden surprise or something we didn't see coming, that's like hidden from us. It also could be letting go of a plan, even if it's hard. Like we had a plan for how to live our best life and how to be secure and make money and have a relationship and, do all the things, like check all the dots. And, like our parents told us to live life a certain way. Our teachers told us to live life a certain way. And we're like, yeah, we're going to check all these boxes. And then we realize that life fucks all that shit up, and things don't go as planned because it's life. And, there's forces beyond us that are happening beyond our control. And that is both terrifying, but it's also something that can fill you with awe and wonder, because life gets really boring sometimes. If you're just living that like life that we're told we should live, after a while you're like, is this all there is? And the universe goes, oh, hell no, that's not all there is. We got some surprises coming that are going to make your life story super exciting. And if you think of any life story, every good story has immense difficulties and tragedies in that story. Think of your favorite movie or your favorite book and think about those characters and what they had to go through. I bet there's no story that's your favorite where it's like, hey, the person had a happy childhood, they lived a good life, they got a job, they got married, everything went according to plan and it went smoothly, and that's my favorite story. No, like probably your main character went through like doubting themselves, tests of faith, like feeling like their entire world was destroyed or having some difficulty that they thought they'd never be able to get through or fight through, and then they overcome it. Well, that's your life story too. Your life is also a magical, beautiful story, and you're the character going through these difficulties, and I guarantee you you're going to overcome them. And that also, they make your life thrilling and exciting. At least that's my perspective, and that really helps me out when I'm going through life. Um, so like there can also be this like having a conflict related to a point of view, like when Saturn is in Aquarius, or having like your voice being constricted, not being able to say what you think. So this energy could be seeing another point of view that liberates us, and like liberates us in some type of physical way, but it is a restriction. So it could be a law or a restriction, or just like having somebody with a strong opinion around you that disagrees with you, or something along those lines. But it also could be just like, if it's not something big, it could be small things like you don't have an ingredient for dinner and you try something different and you realize like that's the most amazing ingredients ever. So it will vary by your chart, it will vary by your circumstances. But it is going to be something where it's a surprising restriction that is like cutting off life in some way, but ultimately leads to this liberating energy. And so that is going to continue, and it's going to lead to a new start, because we have a new beginning coming on February 1st. So that's Tuesday, February 1st. We have that new moon in Aquarius. And so a new moon, so that balsamic moon, it ends out the cycle, and then we have a new start in the cycle where we don't really see what's ahead of us. We kind of are in this state of like innocence and like this childlike freedom and wonder, right? Not necessarily that new moons are always like super, you know, like freeing and stuff, but it's kind of like we have a break from thinking about things beyond our control or our emotions. It just kind of like more brings like simplicity, because the moon is dark, and so we're able to sit in darkness, which sounds bad, but like it's kind of like when we turn out the lights to go to sleep and we can just rest. So it's this time of resting energy, a time to dream, and a time to be childlike again, and just like really be present with what's going on. And we can dream for the future. We don't have like life being all muddled up. So this new moon in Aquarius, it's co-present with Saturn. So talking about this new moon is starting a cycle where we will have surprises that may bring difficulty, but we'll also be able to handle them. Because one thing I didn't mention before is, Saturn in Aquarius, that's its natural sign in traditional Hellenistic astrology, which I practice. And so that means that we'll have Saturn in Aquarius means that you'll be presented with difficulties, but you'll also be presented with the ability to handle those difficulties with maturity and grace, which is pretty nice. If we can't avoid all the difficult things, the ability to be able to handle those things is pretty awesome. But this new moon is going to lead to it's just going to continue that theme of liberation through those restrictions, because it's squaring Uranus and Taurus, which I talked about that energy yesterday. And so it's kind of like this new moon is leading to a cycle of like liberating ourselves in some way, seeing a new way to do things that we hadn't been stuck before. So, like Saturn in Capricorn, we have a lot of Capricorn energy. We have Mars, Venus, like Pluto, Mercury in Capricorn. That's like holding on to this like traditional way or the way we've learned to do things and a secure way to physically do things, right? And Aquarius is like is all about the boundary of what we could be doing, like what's a new idea that we can introduce to create security and do things in a new way, and protect our freedoms in some way. And I think that this new moon is going to be leading to like a union between like an action that derives pleasure for us in a very physical way in safety and security. So whatever losses we've been experiencing, like physically, like money, homes, resources, like children, your spouse, like people at work or what your work or school situation is. Um, Whatever restriction, like we're going to find a new idea or a new way to handle that, and to get that safety and security. But like to get to like to have a breakthrough and like have a breakthrough with like what we want and desire for like physical pleasure, physical like safety and security, which usually means has to do with money or finding like, you know, a stable like partner in some way usually, or love life, or finding a passion of ours. We need to look beyond our own perspectives. And so that's what this new moon is really going to help us to do. It's going to really help us put an end to ideas that are just not serving us anymore and be able to find something new, like a eureka moment or aha, like, yes, it's happening, but have like very like grounded, like something that where it's going to like physically show up. It's not just an idea, like merging those two things. So like a new point of view, a new start related to a loss. Um, and so that's like, we're going to probably see some of that happening by the time we get to that full moon in Leo in a couple of weeks. But also the new moon also relates to like a 6-month cycle of like when we get to a full moon in Aquarius, like seeing the fruit and the results of some of the seeds we're planting to do things in a new way, in a physical way. Um, you know, so like, so what could that actually mean in a way? So it could mean literally like talking about laws that that restrict like free speech in some way, because we have Saturn in Aquarius, or like polarizing, like you have to pick this side or that side, and you like defending yourself in some way, defending yourself against that law, or like activism in some way, or protecting your right to think as you want. Now that can relate to actual like literal laws in our government, but it can also be related to like that family member or someone you're close to, like a child or a parent or something, where they're restricting your ability to speak freely and do things in a way that you think should be done. And you saying like, hey, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Like I am, or you start marinating or thinking about actually like asserting yourself to protect your rights. So this new moon, you might not be doing it that day, but later in the week, you might like find yourself working up and having this moment of being able to be like, you know what, I really don't care about what the consequences are. I can't live my life in fear. I have to speak and say what I think and fight, like, and let people know what I think. Otherwise, I'm stuck with like, you know, being put in a little box and never being free. And it could be related to taking action in a physical security in some way. So, you know, there's lots of ways, you know, we have like the Second Amendment, right? So it could be related to that. And I'm saying that just because, like from previous transits, I've seen themes of that like coming up as well. So it may not be related specifically to like the Second Amendment, but it could be taking measures to secure yourself in some way. So some kind of like security system on your home, or like taking a like, you know, martial arts class where you learn how to protect yourself, you know, like in a very physical, like literal way, too. And obviously, like your moves may vary depending on who you are, what your chart is, like how it affects you personally. And so we're going to be moving from like the beginning of the week, a time of reflection on the themes that I mentioned, to actually like it's time to go, it's time to take some action and not just think about things, but actually take some action to liberate ourselves and to move forward because we have a lot going on Friday. Sometimes when we have like a break from transits for a day or two or a couple days, they pack a punch when they do come through. So, firstly, early that morning, we're going to have Mars sextiling Jupiter. And so Pisces is, the moon is going to be in Pisces in that last degree. So pretty intense emotionally with that Mars sextile Jupiter. And we're going to have to make sense of disillusion. So whatever restriction or loss that happens like during the week is going to make us feel like really disillusioned, like we don't understand life, or things are not what we thought they were, because the moon is going to pass through Neptune. And so that means that we see something, but then we find out it's not reality in some way. And also Neptune, when it's close to the moon, can also relate to deaths or losses or cutting off in or separating in some way and creating disillusion. Yeah, so we're going to have to make sense of that. And then we have the Mars sextile Jupiter early in the day. And so we're going to have this energy of like Mars in Capricorn is like, let's do things in a practical and productive way. And then it's with Jupiter in Pisces, who's like, let's make sense. Like, let's find the light in the dark in this situation. So we're going to have this productive action that makes sense of things and helps like bring them together, trying to find the light in the dark. So a productive fight that gets a conflict out in the open. So literally like the same energy, like on another transit, I had a fight with my husband over politics, and we got our cards on the table, and like we had to take a break, but then we came back and we were able to work things through. So it may actually be an argument over something, a belief that you have with that Sun and Saturn in Aquarius. Where you fight, there's an actual conflict with somebody on Friday, and then like early in the day, and then you work it out, like you try to work on like figuring that out. And so publicly we might see an argument or a fight too that's like trying to it's like a cutting away that also brings people together in some way. So we kind of have these polarities of like cutting apart and then bringing things together, of being restricted but then also being liberated this week. So we're really ending up looking at a lot of polarities, even though we're in that new moon phase. And generally you see those themes more like with a full moon, when there's an opposition between the sun and the moon. Yeah, so it could be that action, or it could be like just taking action at the right time. Um, and like, and it just like brings things together. So it could just be action oriented, like just doing something or saying something at the right time, like deciding to be productive or do work, and like it works out. Like for example, like in my personal life, like we put on music that my mom likes at just the right time before she came over, and my husband had put it on and he didn't know. So just kind of like this intuitive sense of I need to act right now. And then it like helps bring things together. Everybody liking a dinner I liked, a dinner I made was another example of this, like making something, like taking a productive action, like making dinner or like renovating or something, whatever. And everybody comes over and they're like, I love it. And it brings everybody together. So that's like really nice energy. Um, Later in the day, we have Mercury going direct, a couple hours later. Okay. Um, so it's like this energy of, okay, we have to take like strategic, productive action that's going to protect what I want and what I need, what I like pleasure and desire for like physical safety and security. But also like bringing up all your issues. So it's conjunct Pluto. So Pluto is like the god of the underworld. So bringing up like physically your heaven or hell. So, it could be news of like people being sick too. So with Pluto, some of the issues that can come up are like stomach issues. Like you might notice like your stomach is off, like ongoing like stomach issues or stomach bugs. Um, it also could be issues related to like sewage or plumbing and having news that you have to take care of it, like things like that, and really like physically having to fix or take care of things that are surprising to you. And then in a little bit, um, we're going to be moving forward. So Mercury goes direct. It's time to take action. It's not time to reflect on things anymore and be in the dark, because we have a Saturn Cazimi. So a lot of people see that as conjunction to the sun in traditional astrology. It was considered a Cazimi where I was talking about how those like limitations or difficulties might be surprising or hidden because they're under the beams of the sun. But when Saturn is Cazimi, it's considered purified. It's living its best life. It's been like through the sauna, having its beauty treatment, and the sun holds up Saturn in Aquarius in its dignity and says, "This is Saturn in Aquarius. This is my special guest. Saturn is the truth. Saturn is who you look up to." And we get a real clear example, like the best version of what Saturn and Aquarius can be like. And so there's a couple of things that this could mean. It could mean a cutting away that also brings people together. Move like and a literal visual of what Saturn is. So Saturn is related to the Grim Reaper, because he was the god of agriculture, right? So god of cutting away things, but then nurturing life, like cutting away to nurture life. So like it could be like, again, protecting ourselves in order to protect and nurture our life, right? Saturn was related to death. The color black, agriculture, bones, cold ice, like literal boundaries. So you might see an example, probably in the news, probably in our life, we'll see imagery of like a literal boundary that is set with probably the protection of ideas or rights, or something that cuts away our freedom or rights. It really could go either way because Saturn both represents like the restriction of in Aquarius of ideas, thoughts, and opinions, but also our reaction to those restrictions. What do we do? How do we effectively approach it and handle it when we're faced with those restrictions, where we can find like security in ourselves and like face those restrictions in like a productive way. And so it's most likely that we're going to be faced with a fight because and feel like it's time to fight because we have the moon moving into Aries. So we have that waxing crescent in Aries. So it's time to face those restrictions, time to face fighting something, sticking up for ourselves. And so again, that could be like in a government sense, like we have lots of examples. Saturn's been in Aquarius for a long time. Lots of examples of maybe our rights or freedoms being restricted in some way. Definitely not being able to say what we think without polarizing people or people saying we have to pick a side or a team. I'm so freaking sick of that. But that's probably what we're going to see. And it could be that you stick up to like that family member or that person you're in a relationship with, or, you know, a person that's restricting your ability to say something and fighting for yourself. And how we face that. And we can fight that in all sorts of ways. So it can be just like, you can do it in a very vicious, like Moon and Aries type way where you're just like, I'm going to demolish my opponent. But you have to remember that because Pluto is present with Mercury going direct, the thing is, our personal issues, like our personal fears or hopes, are going to be triggered. And we're going to be probably super triggered because of older issues of when we were growing up, when like that person that we're fighting with is most likely not aware of what's going on in our head and our emotions and feelings, and they may not completely understand, right? And so we can fight them and try to take them down. But we also have to realize they're going through the same thing because I'm talking about a collective transit here. So most likely they're going to be in fighting mode and you're going to be triggering them with what you're saying. And you're not even going to realize that you're triggering them too. And you guys are just going to butt heads. So if we can sit back and just have that awareness and also know that we can be secure in ourselves without demolishing someone else. We don't necessarily have to take them down because remember, we still have that Jupiter and Pisces energy trying to help us out, but we're going to have trouble seeing it and connecting it to this situation because it's introversion. We can be secure in ourselves. We can say, this is what I think is the best. This is where I stand. We can say, I don't agree with you. I don't agree where you're coming from. I agree with this part. I don't agree with this part. And I think that this is what we can do. And we can agree to disagree. We can put our heads together and see like where we meet or where we come together. We can decide to separate and come apart from each other. But it's just, I want to raise some awareness, from what I've seen in practice and, my own healing journey that's helpful is that we can stand our ground and fight for ourselves in a way that also respects life and also helps bring us together in some way. And so, like when we're fighting, we also have to remember that other person is probably massively triggered and hurt too. And so they may be acting out of fear. And that might be a unifying thought that helps bring us together and helps us get through and helps us really translate what we're saying and thinking. So with that being said, I'm actually going to break out the cards and do the tarot reading and see what the universe's advice for how to handle all of the stuff coming up for this week. So let's see what the energy for the week is. Two cards fell out when I shuffled. I actually like shuffle the cards like before because they make like this sound on the camera and I think it's probably super annoying for you guys. And then I finished shuffling. So two cards really wanted to pop out. So there's definitely going to be losses or disagreements with other people in our lives, people who are feisty, maybe a little spirited, self-righteous, argumentative, the fighters in our life. So we're either going to be at odds with them and feel like we need to step away, or we're going to have a loss of that person, like a separation in some sense, like a physical loss, or just a timeout like from that person, or maybe they're going away, like a move or something like that. There's many different scenarios that can be happening, but it's definitely like people is going to be a theme because the overall energy for this week is the Page of Wands, and I will take an image of these cards at the end of this reading, the end of the video. So we have the Page of Wands reversed. So a disagreement, avoiding this person, blocking them, needing to separate, or this person just being really burnt out, feeling like they're burnt out and they're cranky and they have too much to do or too much on their plate, really feeling overwhelmed, and kind of lost in all of the things of life that they need to do, kind of like I'm getting this feeling of dryness that they're not like they need to like recuperate and restore and refresh themselves. So real heat, real drying out, and this sense of loss and separation. And I'm feeling in a way, not in a way that they want or in a way that they're like asking for, that it's just a loss and a grief, something that brings grief in some way. And it's a real ending or a loss in life in some way. And then the advice for the week is the King of Wands reversed. So let me see. So yeah, so kind of like having wisdom, the sense that we need to have wisdom in the loss of this person, this like fiery, feisty person, who we may really love and desire and connect with. But we also need healing from, a healing from in some way. And it may be a healing from a loss in them, a loss from them. There may be a loss with this person or need to separate from this person in some way. Yeah, I'm getting that it's just like a loss or a separation from a person that we didn't want, someone we really loved and had passion for. Um, and this is just a phase of life in our relationship where we need to heal and grow and see the wisdom in like the separation or the loss, um, for this person, and really like remembering them in the best of ways, remembering their lights and who they were. Um, like honoring their spirit and soul. So even if it's like a relationship that you have to step away with, or a loss, or that, which can mean many different scenarios, really honoring this person and their life, and who they were, and honoring them, even if you had issues with them, you know, really honoring them. And the energy is moving forward. We have the 10 of Pentacles upright. So this is really nice energy. The energy, okay, so what I'm getting is by the end of the week, there will be new beginnings and a new love and a new vitality for you. Um, yeah, and more of a childlike playfulness. You're going to feel a little more free, a little more childlike, like less emotional, less distraught, less in like fighting or upset or in conflict or drains of energy, but you're going to feel a little more vibrant and alive, kind of yeah, getting the message like hair of the dog. Right? It's kind of like after you have a tough time, um, like after a tough night of drinking, you have a little bit more and move forward. So almost like we're drained from a fight, but then maybe engaging in that conflict or that argument is going to be helpful because we're re-engaging into it, into where it's a game and it's a cycle of life, that sometimes we have conflict and sometimes we come together. And by the end of this week, we are going to have this feeling of coming together and a sense of unity and really a sense of wisdom, and really have gained a lot of important knowledge, and learned a lot of like maybe even practical things, like something we learned, like whatever comes up this week, whatever difficulty or restriction in our physical resources, really learning something that's helpful for us moving forward in our cycle. Really getting this sense by the end of this week, like this restored vitality, like romance, love, um, and even this like emotional connection, like to each other, and really more of a playfulness, but also wisdom. So that's interesting because we have that like restriction of life, but then we have this like new moon energy, like restriction with like that Saturn and that Sun, right? And even Mercury retrograde. But then by the end, we have the new moon, and we have Moon in Aries, which can have this childlike optimism and like fighting for the self. Um, yeah, and so things are going to come together. A plan is going to come together. We can think clearly again with Mercury going direct. Um, yeah, and really being able to figure things out, but being like super optimistic, playful, childlike, flirty, romantic. So I'll take that. So, some difficulties that lead to like a liberated sense of like, all right, I feel good now. I feel frisky and playful, and also looking at the light and the dark themes of life, like that, it's a cycle. Like there's dark things that happen in life, and then there's also rebirth. Like if you actually look, like I'm talking about physical resources, and that also relates to actual nature, like Saturn, the Grim Reaper, actual nature, like going outside. Like if you have seasons, right? For the weather. If you take walks outside, like I take walks outside every day to connect with nature, and that's part of like my spiritual practice. It's part of like what's helpful. And you see things die, like that are dead outside, right? Like there's actual animals or things that you see, or trees or plants that actually die. And then you see right after the new life. And when you actually look at nature, no matter what happens, you don't really judge. You're not judging nature, and you shouldn't really be judging yourself either. Like you're part of nature, like your body is nature, and you're part of this cycle of death and life. But if you go out and look at nature, whether it's dark or not, like it's beautiful. Like you look outside, you're in nature in some way, like the forest, the beach, the trees, whatever. You're there in the garden, you know. Um, And you see it and you go, this is beautiful with its darkness, with the death that happens, and with the life that happens, and you feel vibrant and alive. Or even just like watching like National Geographic. Like I used to watch that all the time, like watching those videos, and you see like a cheetah like attack a gazelle, and you're like, oh my God, but you're still watching, and you're just so amazed with this awe and wonder for life. Even though you're watching something's gruesome, you're like, this is amazing. Look at life. And so that's the type of energy that you're going to have this week, especially by the end of the week. Um, Having wisdom through the conflict, having wisdom to see like the dark energy, the light energy, but that there's beauty in it and there's beauty in this cycle. Um, okay, all right. So our minds, this is a surprise to me, but that's why I break out these cards. We have the Knight of Cups on our minds. Um, yes, well, actually, it shouldn't be a surprise with that Mars Venus happening in Capricorn. So, really having our minds on, I'm thinking a lover, a loved one, um, like possibly a male figure, doesn't necessarily need to be, but someone who brings out, like someone who we really desire and want a relationship with, or desiring and wanting a relationship in some way that's exciting and nurturing and romantic. So I'm thinking for a lot of us, we are going to find somebody by the end of the week. Now with the collective reading, I'm not guaranteeing this is for everybody. Like, like some of us may still be single. I'm not married. I'm acting like I'm single for a second, but like you might not, but you might have your mind on romance and relationships and pleasurable, desirable relationships and romance. Um, and hey, if you're single, maybe you're watching romantic movies, but for a lot of us, I think that actually means like coming into a relationship with somebody with between this Ten of Pentacles and this Knight of Cups, like really actually having like romance in our life, or having that spark where we feel beautiful and we feel like we're on fire and that we're desirable. And so we're thinking of that relationship. But I'm definitely seeing like in our mind some sparks flying, perhaps with the person that we're in conflict with, perhaps with a new person that we meet. Or we see examples of that. So, see examples of that, like seeing people fall in love or seeing romances like re-sparked through a conflict. Or what I'm getting from this card is seeing people connect through their bad side, their dark side, like this embracing in our minds of the dark side of us, of the bad side of us, and really embracing it and having a good time. Really like getting our party energy on, or our rebellious side, and embracing it and really having a lot of like good naughty times from that. Okay. So in the body, we have the Seven of Pentacles upright. Yeah, so yeah, this is something where like they're like just like physically taking care of our body. Like our bodies are going to need maintenance, and being able to like we need to take care of our bodies this week. Really nurture them, grow them. There is like, the Seven of Pentacles, when I was talking about like Saturn as a Grim Reaper, like this is a good example of that. So, our body has limitations. We can't keep pushing our bodies to go, go, go. Um, so we're going to have to like physically take care and tend to ourselves in some ways. And for a lot of us, maybe our bodies are not where we want them to be. Because this card is always like things take time to grow. So your body, if you want to like improve your body or your health, like things take time. Or if you're feeling sick this week or down, things take time to grow. So we have to remember that it's a process of constantly nurturing our bodies and taking care of them in order to move forward. And like there's wisdom in that things take time so we can be solid on them. And then in spirit, we have Temperance reversed. I feel like this is really reinforcing that, really embracing our emotions, and wading in the waters of like our emotions and how we feel, embracing the volcano is erupting this week. So yeah, most likely some arguments or some conflict coming up this week, and embracing that as part of the wisdom of life and part of having balance in life. Um, And that's sometimes like these unpleasant things or cutting off of life or being restricted and having to deal with that or fight against that um, can be something that's always something that like is part of wisdom and can be transformed into new life and new ideas and new thoughts. Yeah, so having what I'm getting from this card is like having new wisdom and new thoughts and new ideas for how to move forward and how to get what we want, get what we desire. There's a very carnal energy of like, I want what's mine, like, give me what's mine. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of like sexual energy, a lot of desire, like physical pleasure, like wanting physical, like meeting your physical desires, with like beauty, sexuality, like like food, like could be like food, drink, but I think it's like more so feeling like pleasure like with other people and getting what you want and getting what you desire. And I said how like that new moon is probably like leading up to that, right? Because we have Mars Venus together. Mars and Venus, they were lovers. And so when Mars and Venus are together in a very physical sign of Capricorn, we get what we want. And you know, Capricorn wants like good sex, wants like shower me with money, wants good food. And so there's this frisky energy of fighting for that and potentially finding breakthroughs and getting that. So have fun. All right, that's all I have for you guys. I'm going to turn the cards around to let you see them. All right, guys, as promised, here is the image of the cards for the week. If you'd like to reflect on them a little bit more, you can pause the video. And if you like this video, just a reminder to like and subscribe. You can hit the bell, but also make sure to share this video. If you're finding value, like one of the ways that people get to know to like actually find these readings is if you share them. So if you found it valuable, if you found it helpful, or you find my readings or videos helpful, remember to share them with other people that you think would be interested. All right, so I love you guys so much, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified for whenever I release a new video every single week.